So it was kind of a public quarantine, similar to what we're going through now, this kind of isolation we're going through now. Back then, it lasted about 3 months. So we're not sure how long what we're going through will last.
So let's dive right into some of the things of late that you've been reporting on. And a big one is actually the 1918 flu pandemic 102 years ago and how it affected the inland Northwest and more specifically Spokane and some of the lessons that were learned. Tell us what happened in 1918.
So in short, 1918, for those who aren't familiar with American history or world history, was the end of World War I. The Great War, they called it, the war to end all wars. And an influenza, they think, broke out somewhere in Europe. They're still not sure what happened, but when all the soldiers went home, they all took the flu with them. And so a huge pandemic came to the world, including the inland Northwest. I decided to look into it just because we're experiencing a pandemic again, and in nobody's living memory can we remember the last time this happened, because it was 102 years ago in 1918, the last time a major pandemic came. So I thought I'd look at it and see how people dealt with it then, what sort of measures were put in place, and kind of compare it to what's happening now with coronavirus. Of course, we don't know what's happening with coronavirus in terms of how bad it'll be or how not bad it hopefully will be, but I thought it'd be a good time to look at that. In Spokane, it's pretty striking. It was very similar to what's happening now. There was a public health officer in the city and in the statewide. Once Spokane had its first confirmed case, schools were canceled. There was basically a stay-home order. They didn't call it that then. Restaurants were closed. So it was kind of a public quarantine, similar to what we're going through now, this kind of isolation we're going through now. Back then, it lasted about 3 months. So we're not sure how long what we're going through will last, but if past is any indication, which it shouldn't be because it was a pretty different pandemic, we could be looking at 3 months of staying inside.
Okay, and let's talk about some of those lessons that were learned and relay them to what people are doing today in terms of public health responses. Some of the things that the public health officer in Spokane did back then are mirrors of today. And are there any lessons learned that the current public health officials in the region have taken away from what happened over 100 years ago?
Sure. Yeah. The big one is social isolation, social distancing. They told people to stay at home and not come out. And it was hard back then because the war was ending. Also, it was happening around the holidays. And so about a month into that pandemic, he thought it was getting better, Dr. John Anderson, the public health officer. So he allowed people to have Thanksgiving celebrations. And then the flu came back. And so he canceled all Christmas and New Year's celebrations too. So what we're seeing now, where we're being told not to go out at all unless it's for essential services. Not that long ago, we were told not to be in groups of larger than 10 people. That's all stuff we learned from the 1918 pandemic. And even before then, during the bubonic plague, they were doing these social isolation techniques as well. So it's not that it's a new thing, what we're trying now. It's very old. What's new now, and especially since 1918, is we didn't even know what a virus was back then. We didn't have a vaccine. Vaccines for anything had yet to be invented. And so we have science on our side now, but the measures that are being put in place are kind of tried and true. And, back then it was a little more, I'm trying to think of the right word, but, Dr. John Anderson, I used the word belligerent in the piece. He didn't suffer fools. He threatened to arrest the mayor because the mayor said he was going to throw a party. So he was kind of bringing the hammer down. Today, we haven't seen those threats really, though we're hearing more and more from the governor of Washington, Jay Inslee, that, he's not going to send the troops out or anything like that, but he's just saying everybody has to follow these orders. And he's not threatening us, he's going to do it, but you can kind of feel that it might be coming, that we'll be told that we'll be fined if we're, throwing a party or if we're in a group of 50 people doing something we shouldn't be doing.
You can see more of Nick's reporting on these and other topics at nwpb.org. Thank you for joining us here in the unique Northwest.